Please, Lord. Guys, hello, good afternoon. We shall call this meeting of the City of Mount Pearl Council for February 25th to order. Good to see you all. Who's had to use a snowblower this week other than me? Raise your hands. My neighbor told me, I realize we haven't started. My neighbor told me that he has used his snowblower. I know we've started on that. He's used his snowblower over 14 times since Christmas. Since the thing hit. Right? The thing being, you know what that thing is? It's called winter. We just celebrated it. Well, now we're not celebrating it anymore. But I wonder, I didn't keep count, but I bet you 14 times is probably right. Right? 2 containers of gas, 2 full containers gone. And it never left, did it, boy? No. Yeah, we know, right? All right, let's get rocking and rolling here. We did call it to order, so let's get moving. Adoption of the agenda. It is moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Aker. Any additions to the agenda? Any paper at all to add to this today? All right, hearing none, we'll call it. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried. Minutes and action report from the public meeting of February the 11th. It is moved by Councillor Tessier, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, that we accept the minutes as they have been presented. Are there any errors or omissions from the minutes of February the 11th? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried. Business arising then, and I'd ask that you refer to any agenda number if there is an item that you wish to raise. This is the appropriate time to do so. Does anybody have an item from business arising? Nothing? Okay, moving on then. Get back to my agenda here. We have no proclamations today, Council, or correspondence to deal with. We will start first with community services. And I guess we should point out a couple of our councillors are missing, so we're going to have to do some alternate dancing here today. Councillor Walsh is off ill, and I believe Councillor Stoyles is on vacation as we speak.
She's somewhere warm, actually. Somewhere where you're going to be real soon,
Lord,
I understand.
Lord, let us hope come Sunday I too can say that. Community Services, Deputy Mayor, the floor is yours.
Your Worship, I was just thinking the days when we always had the business arising from the minutes. Previous councillors used to relish in the moment to get up and rehash the councillors there were at one time.
Over the years, Councillor Rager, there were several.
Yes. All right, Your Worship, some items here. We'll get to them rather quickly. The first deals with the Mount Pearl Sport Lines 2014 operating grant. Committee is recommending approval to release the first installment of the Mount Pearl Sport Lines operating grant in the amount of $87,000. And of course, this is a part of their MOU agreement with the city, and it covers administrative costs and the travel and hosting grants, and I so move.
It is moved, and who's the alternate for Councillor Stoyles, who's not here?
Councillor Aker.
Councillor, are you really? You are too?
Yep.
You're going to second that, Councillor Aker? All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
The next item has to do with a program subsidy with the Mount Pearl Seniors Independence Group, the 50-plus age community, to cover the fitness program for 2014. This annual subsidy is in the amount of $5,000, and again, it's a part of the agreement that they have with the city, and I so move.
Moved, seconded by Councillor Aker. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
We just made mention of our Frosty Festival, which was another great event this year. This involves the second installment of their operating grant in the amount of $17,500 for the 2014, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. Question or comment? Yeah. Councillor Tessier.
Just a very, very quick question. I can't recall off the top of my head what the total operating grant is for Frosty Festival.
Double
total contribution.
It's
double.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. In fact, we gave them extra this year, right? It was 30.
Yes.
We did.
That's great.
We gave them the extra 5,000 for 2014.
Yeah.
That's great. Money well spent.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded, motion carried.
The next item, Your Worship, is a FYI, but it's a nice story. It has to do with our 2012 Male Youth of the Year, Mr. Adam Keating. And of course, we all know Adam as an outstanding young gentleman. He's a strong academic, a super athlete. And of course, we know that he had some hardship with the passing of his father. So this is just sending out congratulations and kudos. Adam, on his recent accomplishment, he created the Keith Keating Memorial Basketball Tournament, again in memory of his father. And he raised $12,500 for the Cancer Care Foundation. And you may remember that the weather was horrible. It was a real stormy time, and they persevered, and they did a nice write-up in the paper on him. So I just wanted to extend congratulations to Adam again on another outstanding achievement here, and wish him all the best with the future endeavours, because I know he's determined to continue this annual event. So I just wanted to bring that forward, Your Worship. Okay, he raised another 10,000.
I think we should send, if we can do a little congratulatory note, I think on behalf of council, that would be appropriate.
That would be nice. I agree.
We'll arrange with the clerk to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That'd be a nice gesture, yeah.
Yeah.
The next item for me, Your Worship, is has to do with a new event, the Family Fun Challenges. Drop-bys, free gym time for the children. We're encouraging residents to come out on Saturday mornings for some family fun, and this ties in line with the new message that we're seeing now in the media to let your children play, teach your children how to play, get your children active, a healthy lifestyle, all that sort of thing. So I think this is a great initiative. Parents and their children can come out to try some new games or play some games that they're familiar with. It takes place at the Reed Community Centre on Saturday, from 10:30 in the morning to 12 noon. For the following dates, well, it started on the 22nd of February, and it continues in March, the 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th, and then it carries through into April, the 5th, the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th. So again, we encourage the people to come out and try some new games. It's free, which is always nice, and again, from 10:30 in the morning till 12 noon on Saturdays. And if they want additional information, they can contact Sean McKenna with our Community Services Department at 748-1046, or get him at his email address at smckenna@mountpearl.ca. The next item, Your Worship, also FYI, some new exciting events. Gentle Hatha Flow Yoga. I can't admit to know anything about that, but it sounds relaxing. Gentle Hatha Flow Yoga. So, say that? Poetic. Zumba and fitness classes. And again, these are held at the Kenmount Park, the Reed Community Centre, as well as our swimming pool. So we encourage people to come out and join today. You can register in person at the Reed Centre or at the swimming pool for Aqua Zumba and Aqua Fit, or they can register online at www.mountpearl.ca. And that's it from me, Your Worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, very much. We're moving on to Corporate Services Committee. Councillor Aker.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The first item we have on the agenda is professional development training for the CAO to attend the Professional Municipal Administrators Convention taking place April 2nd to the 4th, and I so move.
It is moved, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Is there something inappropriate if the boss, the CAO, has to have training?
I do, and I was going to say the exact same thing.
Did we hire beneath what we needed if you've got to send the CAO for training?
Your Worship, in our constant changing world,
Right.
leading the forefront is our CAO. She
Leading
is.
by example.
She is.
As I recall, we made a heavy commitment to training all the way through the organization, did we not, for 2014?
Yes.
Including for us. We haven't done enough of it, as councillors, but anyway, that's a lot of it offered, and we haven't captured as much as we should.
Perhaps when she comes back, she can give us a report, Your Worship.
She'll tell us what I learned in Gander. I'll look forward to the essay. Right? We'll have the essay. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
Item number 2 is an uncollectible tax account. I believe this is business tax, so therefore we don't have a lien on the property. The account number is mentioned there. The amount is $1,031.17, and we've exhausted all collection efforts, and I move that we write off this balance.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
Third item is an amount of $1512.19, which is a tax deferral for a low-income earner, again in accordance with our deferral policy. Account number is mentioned there, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
The fourth item is the request in accordance with our policies with regards to charitable organizations. Request for tax consideration. I believe every one of these is business taxes. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I think there's a dozen items there, and
It's
I so
12.
move. 12 items there. Don't have the total, but you can see that the amounts range from $407 all the way up to $12,000. These are charitable organizations. They're registered with the Canadian Revenue Agency, and I so move the tax consideration.
Moved and seconded. If we add that up, guys, it's a substantial amount of money, isn't it? That,
It is.
quite frankly, we contribute.
We do.
I view this as a contribution to these charitable causes.
And we
you know,
have, I
within our
believe,
community.
that policy has been in place. I've been on
Forever.
council for 5
And
years.
We don't
It's,
tend to change it.
It's money well spent.
What also means, Your Worship, is that means there's a lot of great things happening.
Well, yeah, these 12 organizations are doing good work, and there are more of these in the run of a year than these.
Yeah.
All
Well,
those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
okay, thank you. Invoices for approval, items 1 through 17, in the total amount of $2,174,200.83. Leading the way, as it has in the last few months, Marco Services for the Reed Center expansion, progress claim number 4 on contract CP3 in the amount of $1,257,731, and Marco's days are numbered. Because gladly we'll be able to say in June, July, and August, we expect that facility to be finished and the money paid out. And of course, the Public Works Committee has got a good handle on that. And we have a few more payments to make, but we're looking forward to that facility opening. Other payments of note, we have $102,000 there for Metrobus, going back to the previous, and lots of salt. Avalon
yeah,
Coal
lots of
Salt,
salt again.
174,000. 84,000, 7,000, and combine that with 382,000 to buy water just for the month of January alone, and we ask your approval for $2,174,201, and I so move.
It has been moved and seconded. Council, I'm going to refer you to two little items. Item number 15, which is Transcontinental Printing, and item number 16, which is the Telegram. I think everybody here knows that I'm employed by the Telegram, and I write for them, and I am compensated for that, as I believe is Councillor. Are we in any kind of a conflict for that? I've never seen this listed like this before. CAO, are we good to go? We're good to go on that. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
That's it, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are going on to Infrastructure Public Works. Councillor Walsh absent today. Deputy Mayor, if you would.
The second on this.
Councillor Ledwell.
Okay, good. All right, Your Worship. Speaking of all that salt, the first item here is the winter maintenance. And you were talking about the snow blowers. I know I was out snow blowing mine last night, and the sounds that were coming out of my machine, well, because the snow was heavy. It was that dense, heavy, and then you're into the ice and.
You were
and all
late.
that. Pardon me?
You were late.
Absolutely, I was
The
late.
machine was telling you should have got out earlier.
Absolutely. And I'm paying for the price on that. But speaking of that now, just some notes here. The total snowfall accumulation for February to date is 82.2 centimeters, 74 in January, so we got 157 centimeters to date. I mean, it was almost sickening today to see the snow out through the window, and I was in the classroom. I looked out to the curtains and I said, "Dear God, it's not snowing again."
Yeah.
But that's where we live. So approximately 1,300 kilograms of salt has been used so far during February. That's a lot of high blood pressure, for a total of 2,100 kilograms year to date. The equipment is working hard. Just to make the point, I made the reference of my individual snowblower. I can only imagine the pounding that the city's equipment must be taking, because this mix of ice pellets, freezing rain, wet snow, and then it's accumulating, and our workers are out doing the best they can. And of course, the machines, they got to be maintained. They break down, the wear and tear, the pounding that they
I
receive.
feel for our mechanics, quite frankly.
So just to highlight the
It's gotta be
fact,
nuts.
absolutely. And I know we've had some requests. I know Councillor Tessier forwarded some today about people asking where our equipment is and why isn't the equipment out.
There's the snow blowers, the one I got.
Well, the bottom line is the equipment is out. We have our 2 regular shifts. We start at midnight until 4 p.m. is our regular shift. But now we got the full complement of our workforce out going 24/7. We're into pushback mode now. So we're in the process now of clearing back all the streets. I saw some of the equipment out today pushing the snow back up at the top of Smallwood Drive. So we're in the process. We figure that by Friday we'll have about 80% of the city pushed back, and barring any other major dumps of snow, we'll continue that, and hopefully we'll have the entire city done, certainly by the end of this weekend. But the people got to realize that you know, the priority is to clear the streets. So if we're out cutting back using our snow blowers, and then we get another dump of snow and ice pellets and freezing rain, well then we got to get back. Our priority then is not push back or blow back, it's to clear the streets for safety for our pedestrians and our motorists. So, you know, it's a bit of a juggling act, and sometimes I know people get frustrated. They figure we got all this equipment, why isn't equipment being used? Where are our snow blowers? But the bottom line is, at any given time, we have 3 to 4 of our big snow blowers out working through the city. So that means one could be down for maintenance. And again, the pounding that they must take, I know again, the sound, my little Honda Maid, I can only imagine what these machines are going through. So I just encourage the residents to be patient, and that and I know Councillor Walsh has made reference to this before. I was in my staff room the other day, and again, someone threw a little jab my way about the snow, and I said, yeah, the city is looking at investing in a new piece of machinery. And of course, they looked at me and said, what's that? It's called the snow catcher. We're trying to catch the snow in Mount Pearl before it actually hits the ground now. It's that expectation that people have. We're so good at our snow clearing that when we get excessive amounts of snowfall, and we have every third day we've gotten snow, our workers are doing their best, but they got to realize that there's only so much the guys and the women can do, and we can't be working them 24/7 or you'll burn them out. You know, they got to have some downtime. So by the end of this week, hopefully, fingers crossed, if we don't get too major a dumping on Thursday, I know another system is being called for, but we should have much of the city pushed back, and I'm sure our residents will be appreciative of that. Did you have a comment there, Councillor?
Question? Yeah, there's an email that came in, I think, the weekend, and I think there's another one here now from a resident of Mount Pearl, Mr. Warren. So he asked how many snow blowers we have, and I don't know if Deputy Mayor, you want to field this question, or maybe Director Anto.
I responded to him. I replied to him.
Yes.
He's just written again, but anyway, maybe you just responded, I don't know, Your Worship. And then he says, why are they not working? And I think what the Deputy Mayor has alluded to, they are out in full force. But can we get a little more detail, say, on today's activity? Perhaps it's the Mayor's response you want to recite.
They're not working because they're overworked and they break down. Jerry, anything to add? Oh yes, we have 5. We have 5. 2 of them were down, and just before you got that email, a third one went down. They're all in the shop, undergoing repairs. A couple of them have to be assessed. I'm quoting Jerry here. I should let him say this. And when that happens, there's not much we can do, is there? We only got 5. You got 5 and 3 of them are down. That means you're only going to be 40% as effective as you would have been if you had all 5 up and running. But this is all pressure from, as the Deputy Mayor described it, for all of us, right? It's just, they're constant. It's constant pressure. And I think Mr. Warren knows that. He's just being snooty.
But I think, Your Worship, if we drive around the city, in fairness to the staff and the effort, the streets are fairly wide. I don't expect to see, you know, that little cement wall that, you know, gets created when the snowblower goes by. But I do notice in Powers Pond this morning, as I went to work, they were out in full force. So when they're available, I said they're out working. It'd be different if our streets were really, really narrow. I think we'd be feeling more pressure. But generally speaking, in my drive-bys throughout the city, I mean, we've got fairly wide streets, and, you know, I think we're basically on track for the end of the week. Director Antle?
Jerry, go ahead, please.
Deputy Mayor Locke put it quite well. It's a juggling act. During any day, we could have trucks out, we could be pushing snow with the blades, we're salting, we're pushing snow with our loaders and our blowers and our sidewalk blowers. It's a juggling act, depending if it's rain or snow. In the past couple of weeks, it's been a snow, rain, freezing rain kind of mixture. We can have operators on any number of machines throughout one shift. It can juggle that much for the past few weeks. The large blowers, there's 5 of them, as the Mayor has already referred to. Sometimes they'll come down for something very simple. We'll pick up, it's either chunks of ice, which is not normally the thing that breaks them down. It's a slow-going process with large chunks of ice. We pick up steel sometimes. There's pieces from cars or either things that are on the road and debris, and that will stop the augers. And obviously, we got to bring that back into the shop. It's an operation that requires 3 people per blower. There's a spotter, there's a vehicle behind, there's a person operating the blower. It's a laborious task, but it's a task that our operators take on with a lot of pride, and they really drive this. These machines are working quite hard, so are the people, and we're on our extended shifts right now.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, just to continue with that, speaking of, I know our snow dumps are 70 to 80% filled to capacity, and we've had to look at some alternative sites. One is the former dog park up there between the new glacier and Max up there. And I know that creates some concerns for people in the area because now they're hearing noises that they typically wouldn't hear. But again, it's something that needs to be done. I mean, we got to get the snow off the roads. We got to dump it somewhere. We're working our best to blow back the snow at the snow dump down there behind Powers Pond. But again, there's contingency plans in place, and Director Antle was mentioning that they're looking for other locations. If need be, if the snow continues, we're going to have to look at alternative places to dump it. So just to let people know that we don't mean to cause a nuisance to anybody, but it comes down to clearing the streets, making them safe for passage of pedestrians and vehicles. So we got to dump the snow where we need to dump the snow, and that's just the nature of this type of winter that we're having. While we're still on snow clearing, Your Worship, I know Councillor Walsh mentioned this a couple of weeks back, and that's our fire hydrants. We have 800 hydrants in the city that have to be cleared after each snowfall. And yes, we do have some staff going out and doing it. But again, we encourage residents, if they can see their fire hydrant and they can take it upon themselves to clean it, their neighbors would certainly appreciate it. We asked if they're going to do it, however, not to use any machinery like with a blade on a pickup truck, because you can do potential damage, or with your snow blower. So if you can get at it and clear it with a shovel, that'd be much appreciated. But we haven't forgotten the hydrants. It's just a matter, again, of you're dealing with the snow as it comes. You know, it's you don't know what's coming. You roll the dice and you just respond accordingly. So again, Director Antle said the machines are working hard and our workers are working very hard, and I think they've done a great job this winter to date, and I'm sure they'll continue to do that once the machinery is up and running. I'm sure the residents will be quite satisfied with the snow clearing that we have here. The next item, Your Worship, has to do with the gymnastics facility. A design-build approach for this new gymnastics facility is recommended, and it's recommended that Council now approve this approach to seek government approval as per the Public Tender Act to issue the required request for proposals. So we need a council minute for the Director to go on and get permission from the province on this, so I so move.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Locke, seconded by Councillor Ledwell. Question or comment? All in favor? Contrary minded, motion carried.
The next three, Your Worship, are some tenders, just for information, and we got to get a minute on it. The first is the turf maintenance material. The tender closed on February the 14th. 3 bids were received, and it's recommended that the contract be awarded to the lowest qualified bidder, East Chem Incorporated, for $33,843.50. This includes HST, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. Question, and Councillor Aker.
Yeah, $33,000 for the. I guess this is for the turf field down at Smallwood Park, is it? This is not the artificial turf. This is for all of our facilities, right?
Yes.
That's all I need to know. Thank you.
Call it. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Carried.
The next item, Your Worship, another tender for ornamental nursery stock, trees and shrubs. Again, the tender closed on Valentine's. 3 bids received. It's recommended that the contract be awarded to the lowest qualified bidder, Gaze Seed, $15,298.40, again including HST, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. Question? Comment? Hearing none. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried.
Next tender is for locksmith services for a 3-year period. The tender closed on February the 14th. 2 bids were received in this case. It's recommended that the contract be awarded to the lowest qualified bidder, Armour Lock and Safe Limited, for $32,063.75, including HST, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. Is that for 1 year, or does the 32,000 divide by 3?
3 years.
It's for 3 years, the 32,000, but 11 grand a year. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried.
The next item, Your Worship, is an FYI. Just the following tenders have been issued. You can see them there. First is for street markings. Second is for supply and delivery of playground equipment. The third is for electrical maintenance services. The issue dates are there, the 17th of February, 24th, and the closing time and date is also there. Tenders are also going to be released shortly for street upgrading capital works, which is good news. The City of Mount Pearl is tendering their capital works this time of the year, so we'll be able to get the tenders out, get the work started earlier. So residents will be pleasantly surprised to see that a lot of the road works that's typically later in the summer into the fall, we'll be able to get that done much earlier this year. So that's a good news item right there.
It is indeed. Thank you.
The seventh item for me, Your Worship, has to do with the storm. Sorry, Councillor Aker? No.
I'm sorry?
No, that was just an FYI.
No, that was an FYI, invitation.
Yeah.
Invitation attended
Yeah,
was
just
only
the
for
invitation.
information.
Oh, okay. The next item is
Gotta stay with us, Councillor, gotta be on
the stormwater management. And again, Councillor Walsh spoke to this at our last public meeting, dealing with the infiltration study of our municipal basins, our sanitary sewer, and the infiltration of stormwater. Just an update here that the final house-to-house survey was started on the 24th of February. The Aqua-Zoom inspection for the sanitary infrastructure is ongoing, and it's anticipated that the field work is going to be completed by the middle of next month, and we should have a draft report by the end of March. So that'll be good. Again, the work being done here to have a look at the sanitary sewer situation, the infiltration, the overflows and stuff like that. So that's just an update. And the last item for me, Your Worship, is the multiplex status. Just to note that it's at 88% completion from a financial perspective. Finishing work is ongoing through the facility by the contractor. And fingers crossed, this summer we'll be swimming in our new aquatic center. And that's it for me, Your Worship. Maybe we'll be swimming at the turn.
We are not going to be swimming at the turn. Despite your campaign, we're not going to call it the turn. We are moving on to Planning and Development Committee. Councillor Ledwell, save us from ourselves, will you, sir?
Your Worship, I'm not sure that I can do that, but I will do my very best.
Give it a shot.
I'll give it a shot. The first item on our agenda this evening, Your Worship, is to do with the proposed amendment to the Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010. This is amendment number 29 for 2013. It's to do with road dwellings and the standards that we apply to these types of dwellings. The purpose of the amendment is to stipulate the development standards for road dwelling development within the apartment use zone. There was a notice of motion brought forward on December 17th, 2013 by yours truly, and a briefing session was scheduled to do with this amendment on January 21st of 2014. This was advertised in the Telegram and on the city website. No representations were received, however, so the briefing session was cancelled. The department has prepared the initial development standards based on road dwellings in other zones. The residential high density and RHDS zones have minimum frontages of 5 meters currently. Now, Regulation 9.9 of the development regulations currently does not permit vehicles reversing onto the street, with the exception of single or double dwelling lots. Now, if this regulation is adhered to, then the 5 meter frontage is satisfactory. However, going forward, if the future lot layout of road dwellings will not be typical of previously approved developments such as those on Farrell Drive and Michener Avenue, the 5 meter frontage will not be satisfactory. If it is Council's intention to continue the practice of approving road dwellings with direct individual access onto a street, then the minimum frontage requirement will have to be increased to a minimum of 6 meters per dwelling unit. This will allow each unit to meet the landscaping requirement of 50% for the front yard and to provide adequate frontage for on-street parking. The proposed change will also improve snow clearing operations when it comes to road dwellings. So therefore, the recommendation of the Planning and Development Committee is that the proposed Mount Pearl Development Regulations 2010, Amendment 29 for 2013, Road Dwelling Standards Amendment, be adopted by Council, and I so move.
Opposed, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Question or comment? I look at, to Councillor Ledwell, I look at the little map, the little artist concept there of the parking layouts for these road dwellings. Sample number 1 is what we basically have now, correct? In a lot of areas?
That is correct, yes.
Are we now saying that any future road dwelling, we're not allowing that? That's the idea. We're going to abandon that process of everybody having an individual driveway that backs onto a busy street. The road dwelling is going to have its own parking lot, either in front or behind, as displayed here.
Yes, in figure 2 or 3 there.
Yeah, 2 or 3.
That's right. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, no, it just makes eminent good sense. I think we have a clear present danger everywhere we've allowed that. But okay, any other question or comment from anybody? Hearing none, I'll call it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
Okay, our second item, Your Worship, is an application for the installation of a wheelchair ramp at 9 Emberley Place. This item was discussed at Committee of the Whole at our meeting of February 11th. The direction of the committee at the time was, due to the sort of urgent nature of the application, was that the development permit be issued for the development and the issuance of the permit be ratified at this, our next public meeting of Council. The application is for a wheelchair ramp in the side yard of the property in question. The property is located in an area zoned residential medium density, and decks and ramps are permitted under this zoning. The proposed ramp is to be placed along the southeast wall of the dwelling and to provide access to the existing entrance to the downstairs unit at the dwelling. The ramp will be contained on the owner's property, and a minimum side yard setbacks will be maintained. Staff have reviewed the application and determined that the project is permitted with council approval as per the city's development regulations. Thus, the recommendation is that the ratification of the approval be carried forward for the issuance of a development permit for a wheelchair access ramp at 9 Emberley Place with the conditions outlined in the report, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Ledwell, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Any question or comment? Again, I believe the ramp is already there. Now we're just ratifying this approval, right?
That is correct, Your Worship.
No, it's not? It's not there yet?
Not there yet?
No, Your Worship, we have actually issued the permit, but the ramp is not built.
Okay. All right.
But it's in a bit of urgency because the individual is in a home right now waiting for this to be
Waiting for this
constructed
happen.
to get into
I would
the house.
I would imagine weather has probably slowed them down.
I would say so, Your Worship. Yeah.
Anyway, so this is a ratification of a prior approval. All those in favor? Contrary-minded motion is carried.
Your Worship, I ramped up a little bit too quickly there. I apologize.
It's Pun Day here in the city of Mount Pearl.
The third item on our agenda is the proposed family childcare use. This is a discretionary use application from the property owner at 7 Hagen Place. The application is to utilize 93 square meters of the subject property for a family childcare use. Childcare would provide services for up to a maximum of 6 children. The property currently has 2 on-site parking spaces. Now, this is currently the city's development regulations currently require a minimum of 3 additional off-street parking stalls for this type of use. That would give a total of 5 spaces. However, Council is currently in the process of amending the municipal plan and the development regulations to eliminate this requirement and to add family childcare use to the list of discretionary uses requiring public notification in the residential use zones. In light of this ongoing process, Council has directed that all family childcare applications are to be processed through a public process. Therefore, notice of this application was published in the Telegram on February 1st, 2014, and it was the notice of the application was mailed to residents within the 150-meter radius of the property and advertised on the city website. There were 3 representations concerning the proposal that were received. Concerns included lack of a fence around the subject property in the backyard, some increased traffic in the area, congestion that was created by snow storage in the middle of the cul-de-sac, and an alleged auto glass repair shop that is supposedly operating in the cul-de-sac. There was a briefing session held on February 18th of 2014, and other than myself as the chair of the session and our planning and development staff, the only representatives from the public to attend were the proponents themselves. The proponents did address some of the concerns that were raised, stating that, first of all, they intend to install a fence around their backyard, around the property, as soon as the spring weather comes and we get clear of our winter. So they were very reasonable in that effect. Also, they make note, of course, that the city does pick up the snow within the cul-de-sacs within a reasonable amount of time, 3, 4, 5 days. It's usually cleared out pretty good. Certainly, they made mention of the fact that they only intend to provide childcare for 6 kids, that the drop-off and pick-up would happen at one time early in the morning and one time late in the afternoon. So therefore, the concern about, I guess, a lot of increased traffic was somewhat removed. This is a home that has 2 parking spaces and only 1 vehicle, so therefore they were of the view, certainly, that the parking was adequate at this particular location. So we had reviewed the application as a staff and as a committee, and certainly we are prepared as the Planning and Development Committee to recommend that, pursuant to Council's discretionary powers as outlined in Section 4.5 of the Mount Pearl Development Regulations, that the application for a family childcare use at 7 Hagen Place, as submitted be approved subject to use complying with all municipal conditions applicable to family childcare use, with the exception of conditions relating to on-site parking, and I so move.
Moved and seconded by Councillor Tessier. Question or comment? Councillor Tessier.
Yeah, with regard to traffic density, parking density with childcare uses, we've seen a lot of childcare uses or daycares around the city and certainly in the region. And quite often what you'll see is parents come at different times to pick up children. You know, there's different things that could delay them. They may all get off at 5, they may all get off at 4:30, but it depends on where they're coming from. So when you're talking about kids being picked up, very rarely will you see more than one vehicle or two vehicles at a time at a location. Very, very rarely. And that's no different than if you had a family dinner or had company over, really.
Okay, Councillor Aker?
Yeah. I asked the director if there was any other daycares, for example, on the street, because when we make this decision alone, I'm very comfortable with it, given, you know, the volumes. But if this was the third or fourth daycare, say, in the street, I think our discretionary powers kick in and better judgment would apply. But I think in the case of, like, daycares are really in desperate need in this city for all the young families who are trying to raise their kids and continue working. And at the same time, I don't think one daycare would be disruptive. Now, I have a different comment. Maybe it was 2 or 3. But I think one daycare, I don't think these neighbors will be too disrupted by it. And I think, there's no staff coming in and parking on the street all the time. And basically, people are dropping off their kids. They're there for, 5 or 10 minutes a day. Maximum will be 6 people coming in the morning, 6 people coming later in the day. They're typically spread out. I don't think it'll be too intrusive.
That it? Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our next item is the development permit list for the period of February 10th to February 21st, 2014. The permits are listed there in your kit, and I'd like to move them, please.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Contrary-minded, carried.
Last couple of items very quickly, Your Worship. We have the residential building permits for the period February 7th to February 22nd of 2014. The total for the period is $33,000, and I so move.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Contrary-minded, carried.
And finally, Your Worship, the building permit list on the commercial side, we have a total for the period of $5,000, and I so move.
Not a lot of work going on, is there? Moved, seconded, all in favor? Carried. And that's it for that. Thank you, sir, very much. Moving on. Transportation Public Safety Committee report. Councillor Tessier.
I'm going to get through this now without coughing up a lung. This cold is going around, and I thought I'd be immune to it, but I'm clearly not. Sorry, Dave. Councillor Aker came to my rescue with some mint, so that's pretty good. We just want to remind motorists to be courteous and cautious and not park within the blue zone parking spaces unless you have a parking permit visible, because these parking spaces, as we all know, are designed for people who have physical challenges. We met recently as a committee with a representative of the Coalition for Persons with Disabilities, and we had a really interesting conversation, like an awareness piece really, about blue zone parking, especially in the winter. I mean, we all clear our parking spaces, businesses, public buildings, we clear our parking spaces, but rarely, the blue zone parking spaces are larger than normal, and that's for a reason. You need to be able to access wheelchairs or walkers or crutches or anything like that. Sometimes what we're seeing is that blue zone spaces are not completely cleared. They might be cleared and the corners left filled with snow. And then what we've also seen and what they see, which they brought to our attention, of course, we're all guilty of it because sometimes you just don't think of it. If you have a public building and you've got your blue zone situated in a specific place, you have to have snow clearing adequate to allow that person to get out of their vehicle and maneuver to the building that they're going to. Quite often, a path may not be cleared by the blue zone, or the path that is there that's meant for everybody to use may not be shoveled wide enough for a chair or a walker or crutches or a walking cane. So it was a really interesting conversation, and it's a really interesting awareness piece because it's something you may not think about. You don't think about it unless you need to utilize it. But when you see it, when you actually see it, and it's a public building, and winter is a very frustrating time for all of us, as we all know. We're all hearing it all winter long. But imagine trying to navigate through the system with snow getting in your way when you're in a wheelchair, or when you're when you're trying to navigate with a walker, or you have a visual impairment. So it's really important that we all recognize, and we're going to work with the businesses, of course, in Mount Pearl, and we're all going to just be a little more aware about courtesy with our blue zones and the people who need to use them.
Amen.
I have a question here, Your Worship, if I could.
Sir?
Just a question on the blue zones, Councillor Tessier, and I don't know if you have the data here now. I know a couple of years back we brought this to council again because there were people concerned about the number of people parking illegally in blue zones, and at that time we increased the fines, I think, from $40 up to $225 for first offence or something like that. It's up to 400 now. I thought that was the maximum that we go, but we've gone to 400. Up to 400? Good. Just wondering, do we have any data? Have the number of violations decreased? And again, if we can't answer it now, or if we can get it, or check on that, I'd be interested to know if the increased fines and the public awareness that Councillor Tessier is bringing forth, if that is indeed being effective and reducing the number of violations. Because again, the people that use it, and I raised it before, I think that it's not always people that are physically disabled that need to use these blue zones. And I always think back to because it changed my perspective on things. One lady called in, she had a breathing issue, and on windy days, she has the permit, she needs to park in these. So she can get out of her car and she looks perfectly physically capable, but she can't. Now, and she said it came, people left notes on her windshield and got into arguments with her and all this sort of stuff. So again, be sensitive to the fact that, because people don't look like they're on crutches or on a wheelchair, that they do need it. But I'd be interested to see the data if the violations have gone down. Thank you, Your Worship.
If I can respond to that.
Thank you. Councillor Tessier.
The person that we met with as well also made reference to that. She spoke about people with emphysema.
Right.
In cold weather, when you step outside your vehicle, it's very, very challenging to breathe. They need to be close to the door, because some people will say, well, you get out of your vehicle and you'll go to the mall. Now, you'll park very close in the blue zone, but you'll go into the mall and you'll walk around for a couple of hours. Why can't you park further back? Well, it's a physical issue with their ability to breathe. Pretty important. So, no, you're absolutely right. So it's not really for us to judge who is parking there. And as far as the public awareness piece, I know that with social media, we're seeing it sometimes. People will take a picture of somebody who's parking a high-performance vehicle or a truck across two blue zones so that they can save themselves a ding. That's the public humiliation of doing something like that. Might just be good enough deterrent, and we will get the numbers for you on the violation notices that have been issued. But anyway, it's a really important awareness piece, especially this time of year. My goodness, it's just challenging at the best of times.
Thank you very much. That concludes committee reports. We're off to new business here. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one item I want to issue a correction that I mentioned in the Infrastructure Public Works Committee report with respect to the amount of salt usage. I indicated it was 1,300 kilograms of salt used so far in February for a total of 2,100 kilograms year to date, and those kilograms should actually be tons. So I talked about high blood pressure. This is terminal now we're talking about right here, right? So a little more salt than I indicated, from kilograms to tons. So
Probably salt in the mood.
yeah.
Oh, my
You must
Lord.
get an email, did you?
Married to a teacher.
So
eh?
so it goes.
So it continues. So that's the first item, Your Worship.
Okay.
The other, this is from the Community Services, dealing with the Mount Pearl Citizen of the Year Banquet, 2013 banquet. It's scheduled for April the 5th at the Reed Community Centre. The nomination packages have been mailed to all community and sporting organisations in our fair city. Advanced ticket sales will start on March 22nd at the Reed Centre. The cost of the banquet is $15 per person. And this is for information, encouraging people again to get out and participate in this beautiful event. I look forward to this every year, and that's just an FYI for the public. And the last thing for me, Your Worship, I just want to send out congratulations to the senior high indoor girls soccer team. They won the 4A provincial champions the other day, so they brought home another banner to the city. So I want to send kudos out to the girls and the coaches and the parent volunteers and the like. And that's it for me, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tessier.
Just one item, Your Worship. We've all heard in the news this past week about coyote sightings in the Powers Pond area. The Department of Natural Resources, of course, issued information to people on what to do should you spot a coyote or any other wild animal. But with coyotes in particular, they said be loud, be aggressive, don't run away. Because if you run, I guess the premise is they're going to chase you. But now, in the meantime, VOCM is saying today that the live trap has been removed, and that at this point, none of the sightings reported have actually been confirmed. Now, that could just mean it's hard to get a picture. That's all that could mean. Who knows? But in any event, just want to advise the public that, if you're out and about enjoying our beautiful trailway systems, to be aware, and probably wouldn't be a bad idea to go online and just see what you should do just in case, because you know that our trailways are very, very busy. We want everybody to be as safe as possible.
Thank you.
Oh, and the senior Blades are advancing in the playoffs. By the way, playing the Claremont. Yeah, Claremont Caribous.
We don't have a box. That's how bright we are. Mr. Rager.
I have a box.
No,
Yeah,
it's
I
the
wanted-
arena. We had a box at the arena all winter,
Yeah.
For all the regular season games, we gave it out to all the charities in the city, which was good.
We did.
Then they make the finals, the quarterfinals. We never got a box for that. We never got a box for the semis, so.
Well, we can always go to the games and
Oh,
support.
well, we got
you know
to.
what I mean,
That's
right?
the
You know
only
what I
way to
mean?
do it now.
Unfortunately, Frosty Festival was on the go, and it made it very difficult
Yeah, that made it tough for us, but
for many
they
of
made
us.
it.
But
They
we'll be
made
there
it.
to
That's the
support
main
the
thing.
Blades the weekend. I think Clareville normally would have started the series,
Yeah.
but they have their own winter carnival, is it, or winter games? Your Worship, I too wanted to touch on the issue of the coyotes, or the rumored coyotes. I had a resident engage me into some issues that he felt pertaining to garbage in the Powers Pond area, and he was suggesting that basically perhaps the city should be, going up there more often and cleaning garbage. Now, I know the pond is not used on a regular basis as much, but he may have had a valid point, because along the trailway you've got people walking, and there's also garbage receptacles, and unfortunately people do tend to leave their garbage, in the neighborhood, especially when it's out of sight, out of mind. But I engaged some of the officials with wildlife on this issue, and Shane Mahoney advises me that the coyotes are not in Powers Pond. If they are, they're not in Powers Pond because the garbage would be there or nearby. They do like a free lunch. They would find it much easier to chew on a leftover Big Mac as opposed to, a duck or a fox or a rabbit. That's why they're there. They're not there basically on account of the garbage.
If they're there.
If they're there, that's right. But they're there basically because, they're after the mammals and the wild fowl. And people should be cautious. For example, people talk about small dogs getting out, and cats. They will get eaten by a coyote if they happen upon them. But our regulations don't suggest, they actually say, leave your animals on a leash, leave them in your back garden. So, people should be well advised not to let them out, especially in the Powers Pond area. Shane tells me that based on the density studies they've done across the province on coyotes, who have been here for at least 20 or more years, in the metro area, at the most, there'd be dozens of coyotes here. There would not be hundreds, for example. And they've been here a long time. I think they've found coyotes up on Kenmount Hill 20 odd years ago. I would also challenge anybody to say that if there's garbage up in the Powers Pond area, I'd like the committee, if they'd have a look at it, at least go up and have a look and see if it's an issue. But also, people are responsible for their own garbage. They shouldn't be leaving it there. And if you do see garbage on the trail, any good respecting citizen who likes the environment probably would pick that up and take it home. But I want to reiterate, they don't think that that's the reason that the coyotes are there. They're there naturally. And one of the problems that's occurring is that over time, we've got now 4th, 5th, and 6th generation of coyotes. They're always having pups. Now they're becoming more and more used to humans. So they're less shy about coming into the metro areas. And they're very hardy animals. They're very smart. Typically, if you've seen a coyote, he has seen, or she has seen you long before you saw it. Generally speaking, that animal is more scared of you than vice versa. But as Councillor Tessier said, you should never be too brave as to go up and try to greet one. You certainly should never offer any food. And as they say, you should act big, slowly back away, make lots of noise, and actually try to intimidate the coyotes. I know Your Worship is thinking if they're there in the first place, but
I think that's the same approach we use with government, isn't it?
Pretty much. So a couple of takeaways. Could we just follow up on the garbage question, even though I don't think it's material in what's happening here? And I wonder, Director Collins, if maybe, do our staff need to be receive any additional training as it relates to what the Department of Wildlife is saying to me is that coyotes are going to be becoming worse and worse. Like if you go up to Vancouver, Calgary, you'll see coyotes downtown. They're part of the riffraff that you see up there at the same time. Are our staff fully prepared to deal with this, or are we always going to be going to the Department of Wildlife for not only advice but also for, for transportation, trapping, transportation, and God forbid someday we may have to put one down, if it becomes a real danger. So perhaps you could engage staff and see how comfortable they feel in dealing with it, right? That's it, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't share the same expertise that my colleague does on coyotes, so I'm going to talk about lions instead. Cougars, no. The Mount Pearl Lions Club, of course, is a very long-standing community organization in the city of Mount Pearl, and I just want to make mention of two events that are coming up that the Lions Club is sponsoring. First of all, there is a pancake breakfast, full menu, pancakes, eggs, bologna, sausages, toast, tea, and coffee. That's happening this Saturday morning, March 1st. It's from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Tickets are $7 for adults and $4 for children. And it's happening at Park Place in Mount Pearl. So I just wanted to encourage council, staff, and the public to get out and support the Lions in this very worthwhile venture. Of course, the Lions do a lot of great work in our community, so certainly it would pay to support them. For tickets to that event, you can certainly see any line, any member of the club, or even myself. I can hook you up, so to speak. Secondly, I just want to make mention the club is also sponsoring a St. Patrick's Day dance. It's going on March 15th. It's a dance and auction, actually. It starts at 8:30 p.m. at Park Place on the 15th of March. Tickets for this one are $10, and again, I can certainly hook you up with tickets, or you can speak to any member of the Lions Club. So just want to make mention of those two very worthwhile projects on behalf of the Lions Club, and certainly congratulate them on the great work that they continue to do. 8 a.m. to 11 a.m.
That's when?
This coming Saturday morning.
This coming Saturday. Won't be here on my way back. Okay, thank you very much. I think that's everything. Council, just to make one little note of something, you've probably heard in the last day or two that the Canadian Federation of Independent Business issued a report on local government, basically saying that we are wanton, blatant overspenders, that we actually don't have a revenue problem in municipalities, particularly cities in the country, that we are lying when we say municipalities only get 8 cents of the universal tax dollar, that in actual fact we get closer to 16% of the tax dollar. And they said through the person who did the report on behalf of the CFIB, who's a lady by the name of, I believe it's Laura Jones from Toronto, that we are not, our issue is not that we have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. We love to spend money. As you can probably appreciate, we were all a little insulted by that. The municipalities, Newfoundland and Labrador, through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, is making representation now to CFIB to challenge them on that report. There are some speaking points that are brought out. I make note of this only because just last week I met with the provincial director for the CFIB in Newfoundland and Labrador in my office here at City Hall, and subsequent to that meeting made a request that he actually meet with the Committee of Council to talk about this report and others that were coming forward. I'm trusting that when the Corporate Services Committee meets with him, which I think is going to happen in the next month, that we will instruct him in the ways he should go. That should not be happening. All right, and they shouldn't be making these blatant comments that are patently incorrect. By the way, today the Federation of Canadian Municipalities reviewed the work that it's done to satisfy itself that it was correct, and the Canadian Federation of Municipalities stands by its argument that it is an actual fact just 8 cents of every tax dollar raised in this country that goes to municipal government, and it's been that way. It's been that way for some time. I'm just back from M&L meetings in Labrador. As you know, we were there for 5 days. We attended the combined council meetings as well. It was a tremendous week. We did a lot on the fiscal framework and a couple of other strategic planning things, none of which have a significant impact on Mount Pearl directly, other than to let you know that yours truly engaged in the Canadian Youth Network program up there this week, and with a group of young people engaged in an activity that we know around here as Battle of the Brains. What they called it was trivia. And I just want you to know that your worship here won the damn thing with his youth. And we won the thing, which goes to show that the weakness on the team that we put into the Winter Carnival does not come from this chair. That's all I'm saying. And no right to comment. I'm entertaining a motion to adjourn. So moved by Councillor Tessier. Thanks, everybody. We are adjourned.
Randy, I wasn't there this year, and I think our stock went up tenfold.
Tenfold, yeah.
The only other councillor who